Hello, my friend. Welcome to your sleep story. Being Irish, I have a deep affinity with the storytelling tradition of my country. For many thousands of years, stories have been passed down from one person to the next through generations of Irish people. We are a storytelling people. And so tonight, I present to you my Celtic-themed Irish stories. From ancient tales to W.B. Yeats, these stories will help you drift off to sleep in an enchanted land, far away from all that you know. Okay, let's do the relaxation session now, which will take a few minutes before tonight's sleep story. I'm going to count down from 10 to 1, and as I do, allow yourself to let go more and more. 10. Feel the support beneath you, whether it be your bed or the floor, or the earth beneath all of it. Allow that awareness of the earth supporting you to enable you to let go a little bit more now. Wherever you might be holding, just soften. The earth is always here to support us. 9. You are safe. My voice will only ever take you to safe places. Allow my voice to be an anchor of safety tonight. A friend to allow you to unwind and to enter a dream world. 8. Feel into your body now. Really notice where you are still holding tonight. Maybe it's in your feet. Maybe your hands. Maybe in your belly. Maybe your face. Just release now. You don't need to hold on anymore today. It's time to let go. 7. Know that peace lives within you. Always. Peace is a part of you. It is just waiting to be seen, to be felt. See if you can feel that peace now. That peace that you deserve. Where do you see it? Where in your body? in your head, maybe your chest. 6. Allow yourself to feel a little gratitude now for this moment, for this opportunity of rest. To be able to listen to my voice, bring you to a peaceful place. Five. The day is done. Whatever has been, has been. Whatever will be, will be. Whatever thoughts are entering your mind, perhaps about the day that was, or what is to come, they do not serve you now. But they are not to be repelled or fought with. See them for what they are. Just thoughts. And allow them to float away like clouds in a starry night sky, or leaves on a moonlit river. 4. You deserve rest. You deserve sleep. We all do. Allow that fact, the knowledge of that fact, to bring you more into this moment. To know that you deserve this moment. 3, 2, tune into your body one more time now, releasing any more tension. 1, completely letting go now, as I tell you tonight's sleep story. In the emerald embrace of ancient Ireland, where legends were breathed through the whispering leaves and rippling streams, Angus, the god of love and poetic inspiration, dwelled. He lived in a land of natural wonders, a land where the forests were deep and mysterious, echoing the songs of ancient times. The rivers, clear as crystal, wove through the landscape like shimmering threads. Their melodies, a constant, soothing background to Angus's existence. You know, It is said that back in the time of Angus, Ireland was so covered in forest that if you were a little red squirrel, which once populated the island, you would be able to go from tree to tree, all the way from the top of the island to the bottom of the island, without touching the ground. Now Angus lived in a beautiful home, right in the heart of the forest, and he loved to sleep. In fact, he had the most cozy room in a beautiful castle, and would sleep next to a crackling fire each night. And one night, Angus was visited by a dream so vivid and enchanting that once Angus started the next day, he couldn't wait to get back to this dream. This dream became something he was obsessed with. And so the next night, he went to bed and looked for the dream again. And it came. He found himself back in it. And he loved this dream so much that he didn't want to wake up. And so the next night, he tried to find it again. And there it was. He was in this world again. And night after night, it continued, to the point where Angus just wanted to live in his dream. What happened in the dream, I hear you ask? Well, in this dream, Angus met Caer, a maiden of such beauty that Angus wasn't even sure if such beauty could exist in the real world. Her hair flowed like a cascade of liquid silver, catching the light of the dream world and shining with a luminescence that outshone the night sky. Her eyes were deep pools of serene blue, reflecting the tranquil depths of the ocean. And in their gaze, Angus found a peace that eluded him in the waking world. Their meeting was always by the edge of a mystical lake, a body of water so still and clear. It appeared as a mirror to the heavens above. The lake was fringed by weeping willows, their delicate branches trailing in the water. creating soft ripples that glimmered under the gentle caress of the moonlight. The air around the lake was perfumed with the scent of jasmine and honeysuckle. The sweet fragrances intensifying as the night deepened, wrapping Angus and Caer in an aromatic embrace. In the dreams, Caer's voice was a melody, a soothing harmony that complemented the subtle symphony of the night. It was soft, like the rustle of leaves, yet carried an underlying strength, like the distant roar of the ocean. When they met, they talked for what felt like eternity about the mysteries of the universe, the secret language of the stars, and the untold stories carried by the wandering wind. With each word, Angus felt more captivated, more entwined with the soul of this celestial maiden. And then the dream would stop. And by day, Angus would walk through his forest. But the lush greens of the forest seemed dimmed, and the songs of the rivers muted. His heart was tethered to the dream world, to the memory of Caer's luminous eyes, and the serenity that they offered. The longing to find her in reality grew with each passing day, turning into a quest that consumed his thoughts. He wanted to meet her in his world. He knew, he felt, she must exist somewhere beyond his dreams. He wandered through the ancient woodlands, where the trees stood tall and stoic, their bark etched with the wisdom of the ages. Maybe they had the answer. He would talk to them and get no response. The dappled sunlight filtered through the dense canopy, casting a kaleidoscope of light and shadow on the forest floor. Each step a dance between light and darkness. The forest air was rich with the earthy scent of moss and the freshness of ferns, a natural perfume that would ground Angus's thoughts as he pondered over the mystery of Caer's existence. Then, one day, as he sat in a forest clearing, meditating on his mission to find his love, he decided that he would go on a journey. He would travel through the entire land, beyond his own forest, to find this person he met in his dreams. And he knew that throughout this journey he could meet Caer each night anyway. Once he entered the land of dreams, and so soon after he embarked on his journey, and it led him far and wide, to the rolling meadows that lay like a green sea beyond the forest's edge. Here, the grass swayed rhythmically in the breeze, a living sea of tranquility that stretched to the distant hills. The meadows were dotted with wildflowers, each a burst of color. Yellows, purples and blues. As he walked, the soft caress of the grass against his skin was a balm to his spirit. Each step bringing him closer to an unknown destination. Yet every moment spent in nature's embrace was a step towards understanding the enigma of his dreams. He also knew that he would find her, and so he took the time to enjoy these moments in these beautiful meadows and majestic mountains, under the vast expanse of the sky. You would also walk along golden beaches and swim in the healing waters of the wild Atlantic Ocean. He would lie down on the beach, letting the sand cradle him, and gaze up at the sky. He would sleep there too, and meet her again by the lake. As the days turned into weeks, Angus found himself drawn to a particular glen, nestled within a grove of ancient oaks. This sacred place felt untouched by time, a sanctuary where the veil between the mortal world and the realm of magic seemed thinnest. A small brook ran through the glen, its waters clear and melodious, singing songs of the earth as it flowed. Here, Angus would sit for hours, listening to the brook's tale, hoping to uncover a clue, a sign that would lead him to care in the waking world. One twilight, as the first stars began to twinkle in the dusky sky, Angus felt a presence. It was as though the earth around him hummed with a hidden energy, a whisper of something ancient and powerful. The leaves of the oaks rustled, as though sharing secrets with the winds, and the brook's song grew more vibrant. It was then that Angus realized that this glen was not just a place of natural beauty, but a gateway to mysteries far deeper. A place where perhaps the distance between dreams and reality could be bridged. With this revelation, Angus's resolve strengthened. He began to visit the glen every evening, immersing himself in its mysticism. He would meditate by the brook, letting the serenity of the water cleanse his mind and open his heart. The whispers of the wind through the oaks seemed to speak directly to him. Each gust, a breath of ancient wisdom. Night after night, he watched as the moon cast its silver light over the glen. In this sacred place, Angus felt closer to Caer than ever before. Her image in his mind growing ever clearer. Her presence almost palpable in the cool night air. One evening, under a full moon, Angus felt a change in the air, a shift that made his heart quicken. The night was still. The only sound, the gentle babble of the brook. It was then that he heard it. A soft, melodious voice. Not with his ears, but deep within his heart. It was a voice he recognized, one that filled his being with an overwhelming sense of love and peace. It was Caer's voice, calling to him, not from the realm of dreams, but from somewhere within the glen. Angus stood, his eyes searching the shadows of the oaks and the silvered paths of the moonlight. He walked and walked, and then ran and ran. And eventually, he came to a lake. The stars shone above, and a gentle mist sat on on the perfectly still lake. And there stood a figure, radiant and magnificent. It was Caer, as real as the night itself. Her presence, a gentle glow in the darkness. Her eyes met his, and in them, Angus saw the depths of the night sky, the calm of the moonlit sea, and the peace that he had sought for so long. She was the embodiment of his dreams, yet here she stood in the real world, under the watchful eye of the moon. Caer stepped closer, her movements graceful, like a breeze that whispered through the leaves. Angus felt himself drawn to her. Every step an echo of the longing that had filled him for so long. When they finally stood face to face, the air around them shimmered with a magic that was palpable. Caer reached out, her hand cool and comforting in his. Her touch was a balm to his soul, a confirmation that she was real, that their love, born in the world of dreams, had transcended into the waking world. In this moment, under the canopy of the ancient oaks and the stars next to this beautiful lake, Angus saw that his journey had not been in vain, that the love he had sought was as true and as real as the earth beneath his feet and the stars above his head. Then they started talking, and Caer revealed the secret of her mystical existence to Angus. She was bound to a cycle of transformation, a duality that saw her become a swan every other year. This revelation painted her not just as a dreamy apparition, but as a being of profound magic, one who traversed the realms of reality and myth. Angus listened, captivated by her tale, his heart swelling with a mix of awe and love. Caer told him that tonight she would once again become a swan. And so, there was only one thing for it. Angus would have to become a swan as well. Determined to bridge the gap between their worlds, Angus sought the ancient magic of the land. He turned to the oldest oak tree he could find. Its bark gnarled with age, and under the gaze of the full moon, he began a ritual steeped in forgotten lore. His voice merging with the natural symphony of the glen. The air around him shimmered with a palpable energy. The earth and sky bearing witness to his transformation. The metamorphosis was beautiful and otherworldly. Angus's human form, gracefully contorted, reshaping into the elegant figure of a swan. His arms became powerful wings, feathers sprouting like the finest silk. Each quill shimmering under the moon's caress. As a swan, Angus discovered a world anew. His senses were heightened. Every rustle of the leaf, every ripple of the water, and every breeze through the reeds was a symphony of nature's wonder. Caer, equally majestic in her swan form, joined him in the lake. Their movements were synchronized in perfect harmony, and together they glided effortlessly through the water. Then they soared into the sky, wings beating in unison, ascending towards the star-studded heavens. From high above, they looked down on the land of ancient Ireland. Little dwellings lit by candle, and people sleeping deeply in the darkness of the night. The cool night air rushed over their feathers. Each gust a thrilling caress. They felt free, exhilarated. Angus was experiencing flight in a time long before air travel. He was seeing what the world looked like from above, before any human ever did. Below them, the rolling hills and valleys of Ireland lay draped in a cloak of moonlight. They flew over ancient forests where the trees stood as silent sentinels of the night, their leaves whispering tales of old. The rivers and lakes mirrored the swan's elegance, and in this elevated state, the bond between Angus and Caer deepened, their hearts beating in a rhythm that echoed the timeless song of the universe. And soon they came to rest back by their lake, and soon they returned to their human form, knowing they could fly as swans anytime they wanted to. And now they were two lovers in a deep embrace, next to their lake, the lake that they met at in their dreams. And now were united for eternity next to this magical lake once again. You are now in ancient Ireland, thousands of years from your time, far away from all of your troubles and all that you know. The world that you and I normally inhabit is far from existing. Cars, phones, and televisions are nothing. And these people now welcome you into a purely natural world, a purely healing world, a realm where the air is pure, the skies clearer, the connection to the earth is profound and unbreakable. It's time for your healing to begin. As you acclimate to this new, unspoiled world, the tribe of healers welcomes you with a warmth and sincerity that perhaps touches your soul. Their smiles are genuine, their eyes alight with a kindness that speaks of centuries of wisdom and compassion. They don't speak your language, but they don't need to. You communicate in a universal way, in a deeply human way, in a way that doesn't require words. In some way, it feels like these people already understand you more than most you've ever encountered. They lead you gently through their settlement, a collection of dwellings that blend seamlessly with the surrounding landscape. The structures are simple, made from the earth and wood that surround them. This is your first introduction to the tribe and to this world. And so today, you will take it very easy. You are invited to first walk barefoot on the soft, mossy, verdant earth. You take off your shoes, and with them say goodbye to the modern world you have left behind. take those first steps, feeling the healing energy of this ancient place, meet your skin. Each step brings more and more softness into your being, more and more peace. You feel grounded here, supported, safe. You hear the sound of the ocean in the distance, and the rustling of leaves in the gentle breeze, and the soft murmurs of the tribe. Each sound adds to a natural symphony, calming your mind further and nurturing your spirit. Before you know it, it is evening time, and you gather with the tribe around a crackling fire. The flames dance against the backdrop of the starlit sky. And you sit in peaceful communion with these ancient humans. You continue to communicate through the universal language of sign and actions, gestures. You are told that tomorrow you start properly. It is known as the listening day. And so tonight, you are shown to your cozy dwelling. Surrounded by the gentle sounds of nature. This is a place of pure healing, a sanctuary where your worries and stresses have no hold. They are not significant here. Here, in the heart of ancient Ireland, embraced by the ancient healers, your journey of healing has begun. You drift off to sleep in your little wooden home, knowing that you are safe and cared for. the next morning, as the first light of dawn filters through the canopy of ancient trees, you awaken as if still in a dream in this timeless land. Today is listening day. It is a sacred tradition of the tribe, one where the wisdom of the elders combines with the therapeutic power of attentive, unconditional listening. And so, after a nourishing breakfast prepared by the tribe, made from the freshest ingredients, harvested from the surrounding land and sea, you are led to the beach. The wild Atlantic Ocean spreads out before you, its waves whispering secrets to the shore. This beach is a place of profound tranquility and immense power, where the vastness of the sea meets the stability of the earth. 3 of the tribe's elders await you there. These 3 have lived long, rich lives, accumulating wisdom that only time and experience can bring. Today, they are here solely for you, to listen to your story, your thoughts, your fears, and your dreams. They speak your language, unlike the rest of the tribe, and so they understand you. There is no judgment here, only understanding and empathy. As you sit together on the soft sand, the elders listen with a depth that goes beyond mere words. They listen with their eyes, their hearts, and their souls. They understand that sometimes the most healing thing a person can experience is to be truly heard, to have their innermost thoughts and feelings received and held in a space of love and acceptance. I invite you now, for a moment, to share whatever you need to with the elders, for they are listening. As the day continues, you continue to share your story with the elders, unburdening your heart in the presence of their compassionate silence. They respond not with advice or platitudes, but with nods of understanding, gentle smiles, and eyes that reflect a deep recognition of your shared humanity. And as the sun begins to set over the western side of the island of Ireland, and our nearest star says goodbye to the day, perhaps you now say goodbye to a lot of what has been burdening you. Perhaps this sacred exchange of trust and healing is a fundamental step in your journey of self-discovery. Under the light of the moon, you bid goodnight to the three elders who walk off into the night, and you are escorted back to your dwelling. Perhaps you feel lighter now. And as you drift off to sleep, the distant sound of the ocean and the sounds of the night lull you into a peaceful slumber. The next morning, over breakfast, you are told again through the magic of sign language that today is Rejuvenation Day, a time dedicated to restoring your body, mind, and spirit through the practices of pure, natural living. The tribe has planned a day filled with nurturing activities, each one designed to rejuvenate your being and connect you with the natural world. Your day begins with a luxurious bath in naturally heated water, a rare indulgence in this ancient setting. The tribe has discovered pockets of thermal water, heated by the earth's own energy. These aren't known to any other people in Ireland, only to the healing tribe. Bathing in this warm, mineral-rich water, you feel the tension in your muscles easing. Your skin soaking in the healing properties of the natural springs. Surrounded by the beauty of the Irish landscape, this bath is not just a physical cleansing, but a spiritual one as well. Following your bath, you are treated to a therapeutic massage administered by skilled hands trained in the ancient art of healing touch. This massage is more than just a physical relief. It's a communication through touch, a way of releasing stored emotions and blockages within your body. The oils used are fragrant and natural, extracted from plants and herbs, known for their healing properties. feel the connection offered by the massage. Allow these healing hands to work on the areas that you need to release. Breathe into these areas. And release. Throughout the day, you are nourished with meals prepared by the tribe. Each dish a testament to the bounty of nature. The food is fresh, wholesome and flavorful. Each bite a reminder of the earth's generosity. You are shown the ways of foraging and harvesting, understanding how the tribe lives in harmony with the land, taking only what they need and giving back in equal measure. As the day comes to a close, you find yourself feeling revitalized, not just physically, but in a way that permeates every aspect of your being. You've been immersed in a world where every action is an act of love and respect for nature, where healing comes not from artificial means, but from the pure goodness of the earth and of other humans. And as you lay down to sleep, you do so with a renewed sense of vitality and a heart full of gratitude for the healing journey you are on with the ancient healers of Ireland. Your final day with the healers is known as Wisdom Day. It's a time to absorb the rich knowledge of these people and the folklore that has traveled down through their generations. Your guide for the day is the leader of the tribe, another who speaks your language, She is a woman of indomitable spirit and grace. Her presence is commanding, yet deeply nurturing. She is of an age that speaks of experience, yet her eyes sparkle with a vitality that transcends time. Her hair, long and silver, cascades over her shoulders, often caught by the gentle breeze as she moves. She wears garments that are simple in design, but rich in history, adorned with symbols and patterns that tell the story of her people. Her voice, when she speaks, is like a melody. It has the softness of a lullaby and the power of a storm. In her, you see not just a leader, but a caretaker of her tribe's legacy, a guardian of their ancient wisdom. You walk together along the beach, and she begins by sharing insights about learning from nature. Look at the ocean, she says. It teaches us about rhythm and patience. It moves and changes, yet it always is. We learn from it to be steady and adaptable. She points out the plants along the shore, explaining how each one has a role in the ecosystem and a lesson for us. This plant here, she gestures, knows when to bloom and when to rest. It teaches us about timing and listening to our inner rhythm. Then, as you continue walking, the leader shares with you a story that she learnt from. This story, she begins, as you both sit on the warm sands, watching the waves, is about the willow and the storm. Some time ago, in a forest not far from here, stood a mighty oak and a slender willow. The oak was proud of its strength, boasting a thick trunk and wide branches. The willow, on the other hand, was flexible, with slender branches that swayed in the wind. One day, a fierce storm swept through the forest. The oak stood firm, relying on its strength to withstand the storm. But the wind was too strong, and eventually the oak's rigid branches snapped, and its trunk cracked. The willow, however, did not resist the storm. Instead, it bent with the wind, moving gracefully with the force that threatened to uproot it. And when the storm passed, the forest was littered with broken branches and uprooted trees, but the willow stood intact, its flexibility having saved it. The tribal leader looks at you with wise eyes and says, "This story teaches us about resilience. Like the willow, we must learn to adapt and move with the challenges that life throws at us. Strength is not just in resistance, but also in flexibility and the ability to yield when necessary." Now the two of you rejoin the tribe, sitting around a crackling fire. And as you sit here with these other humans in silent communion with these people who have helped you deeply, you share one breath. You feel a part of them, and they a part of you. You close your eyes, knowing that these people will always be with you. And you bid them good night now, for one last time. And you go to your dwelling, and move gently into a deep, healing and restorative sleep. Samhain is a magical night, the evening where the veil between the living and the spirit world is at its thinnest. In this secluded settlement in the west of Ireland, nestled between beautiful mountains and a tranquil lake, it's a time of remembrance, protection, and communal unity. For young Ailish, a child of the tribe, the occasion is a time of great joy and excitement. Welcome to ancient Ireland. We are visiting an ancient Celtic tribe who live together, work together, survive because of each other. And tonight, they will take time to celebrate. Ailish watches her father carefully as he selects logs for the communal bonfire. These are not just any logs. They're from the sacred oak trees that grow deep in the Irish forests. Trees as old as the stories the elders tell. Her father's hands, large and calloused from years of labor, handle the wood with a deep respect. Each log is placed with purpose, building the foundation of what will soon be a roaring fire, a guide for ancestral spirits, and a barrier against any unwanted energies. The sight captivates Ailish, and she feels the importance of each deliberate movement. As the men work, the tribe's druid, or high priest, arranges a circle of stones around the future bonfire. Ailish knows these stones are not ordinary. They have been gathered from various sacred sites around their land, each one blessed by the druid in a special ceremony. The stones are smooth and cool to the touch, and as the druid places each one, he whispers ancient incantations that Ailish doesn't fully understand, but somehow she feels these words deep in her soul. The air seems to vibrate with an invisible energy, and Ailish shivers, not from cold, but from the sense of something profound and meaningful happening here tonight. attention then shifts to her mother and the other women of the tribe as they work together in the crisp autumn evening air. They use various stone tools to cut different root vegetables, each one grown in their land, nurtured by the family, and now part of their Samhain feast. The fragrance of the earth still clings to the vegetables, grounding and wholesome. The vegetables will soon join freshly caught salmon from the lake, the fish's scales shimmering like tiny mirrors, reflecting the warm glow of the hearth. Even the herbs hanging from the rafters seem more vibrant today. Sage, rosemary, and thyme sway gently in the indoor air, their scents mingling and create a comforting aroma. Ailish knows that these herbs are not just for cooking. They also serve as protections and blessings. Her mother takes some sage and stuffs it in the trout, whispering a prayer for health and happiness. And as she does, she thinks of her departed grandmother. And enjoys the fact that her grandmother's spirit might join tonight. And she feels grateful for this tradition that keeps the memory of her ancestors alive. As twilight begins to embrace the land, the bonfire is finally lit. The flame catches the logs, and a burst of warmth and light fills the clearing. The fire crackles and pops, as if speaking the language of the ancients. Young Ailish can't help but gaze into the flickering flames, her imagination painting pictures of long ago warriors and majestic beasts. The entire tribe now gathers around the fire. These Celtic people who spoke their own language that still exists in some form or another today, all begin to quiet as the druid steps forward, staff in hand. His robe adorned with symbols only the learned can read, and he begins to chant, his voice a low thrum that resonates with the natural world around him. Ailish feels the energy swell, a crescendo that seems to pull at her very core. It's as if the land itself is listening, acknowledging the sacred connection between itself and the people who have called it home for hundreds and thousands of years. As the ceremony reaches its zenith, offerings are thrown into the fire. Bundles of dried herbs, shaped like little dolls, and small packets of grains. These offerings are tokens of gratitude to the earth, and a way to honor the ancestors, ensuring blessings and protection for the winter ahead. Ailish watches as her father tosses in a bundle her mother has made. It sizzles and pops, releasing a plume of scented smoke that wafts over the tribe. The scent mixing with the early evening air. After the ceremony, it's time for the feast. There's no table, but an arrangement of flat stones and logs serve as sitting and eating spaces. Woven reed mats are spread on the ground, and on them are placed large wooden bowls filled with the day's bounty. The women of the tribe bring forth the food, the fish stuffed with sage and thyme, roasted over open flames, the root vegetables, now soft and aromatic, cooked in a pot over the fire. Ailish takes a bite and savors the mix of flavors. She is filled with a sense of peace as she enjoys her delicious meal. The meal concludes with everyone taking a sip of mead from a communal wooden bowl, its surface worn smooth by years of use. The honeyed drink is strong but sweet, a symbol of the joy and richness of life, even as winter looms. as Ailish sips. She feels connected to her community. She feels a comforting knowledge that she is small, a little girl, but she is a cherished part of this little community in the west of Ireland. She looks around the group. Everyone talking and smiling as the flames dance behind them and the stars shine down from above them. She sees Ciara, the tribe's herbalist. Even now, after the feast, Ciara sits near the edge of the firelight, her aged fingers deftly sorting through a pile of herbs and roots. She has a wisdom in her eyes that makes Ailish feel as though Ciara knows all the secrets of the forest. She is the one people go to for balms for burns, teas for coughs, and advice for just about everything. Ciara catches Ailish looking her way and gives her a knowing smile, as if to say, "Someday, child, you too will understand the language of the land." Near Ciara sits Niamh, the weaver. Her loom is her world, and it's through her skilled hands that the tribe has warm clothes for the winter and strong fabric for their shelters. Away from the crowd sits Fionn, the tribe's blacksmith. He is in deep conversation with some of the other men. Ailish knows that every arrowhead, every cauldron, and every tool in the village has come from Fionn's forge. The rhythmic clang of his hammer is a comforting sound that echoes through their settlements each day. Tonight, Fionn is discussing some plans with the other men, and he sketches something in the dirt with a stick, and Ailish can see the men nodding in agreement. She then sees her own father, Sean, a fisherman who knows the lake like the back of his hand, and her mother, Grania, who is known for her wonderful cooking. Ailish loves spending time with her mother, learning how to cook stews and bake bread. She also loves going out on the boat with her father. The feeling of the cold wind against her face, and the excitement when they catch something. They've both taught her that every member of the tribe has a role, no matter how small, in maintaining the harmony and balance of their community. Amidst the celebration, elders like Kira sometimes murmur ancient prayers and scatter offerings of food and drink on the ground for the spirits or the fairies, to ensure the tribe's livestock will survive the winter and that spring will return once again. Ailish watches as Kira moves gracefully around the fire, her arms raised in a moment of quiet reverence. This ritual fascinates Ailish. The tribe also believes that the spirits of deceased loved ones can return to the mortal world during Samhain. A place at the feast is left empty and filled with offerings for wandering spirits. The belief is not one of fear, but of reverence and love. It's an opportunity for the spirit to join the living in celebrating the cyclical nature of life and death. One last dance before winter's solemnity settles in. Now, as the bonfire's last embers glow in the darkness, Ailish feels her eyes growing heavy. Her father lifts her into his arms and begins to walk back to their dwelling, a modest thatched hut made of wattle and daub. The walls are lined with furs and dried herbs, filling the air with a comforting, earthy aroma. The family don't have separate bedrooms, but instead they share a communal sleeping space filled with soft hay, furs, and hand-woven blankets, creating a cozy nest that insulates them from the cold earth below. There is a hole in the middle of the ceiling, and through that, smoke is allowed to leave the home. for they light a little fire in the middle to keep themselves warm throughout the night. And through that hole, Ailish peeks up for one final look at the night sky, a vast canvas splashed with stars, each one twinkling like a far-off bonfire. The moon is almost full. Its silvery light filtering through the gaps in the thatched roof. On Samhain night, it's said that the moon is a guide for spirits traveling between worlds, and for a brief moment, Ailish wonders if her ancestors are looking down at her from the stars, their ancient eyes twinkling in the celestial dark. Her mother lovingly tucks her in, layering blankets and furs for warmth. The fire from a great festival may be out, but the smaller hearth fire still crackles softly in their home. A piece of the communal spirit smouldering through the night. Her parents join her now, lying down, their bodies forming a protective circle around their little girl. As they lay down, her mum sings her a soft lullaby. Her voice a soothing melody that dances with the whispers of the wind outside. The feeling of unity from the festival of Samhain lingers in the air as Ailish drifts into sleep. Unity not just with each other, but with those who have gone before and those who are yet to come. In her dreams, she revisits the evening's events. Each face of her tribe transformed into a constellation, their stories written in the stars. The comforting thought that she's a part of something much larger than herself follows her into her dreams, a warm embrace from her community that shields her from the winter nights to come. And so, under the watchful eyes of ancestors past, and the twinkling sea of stars, that shine above the west of Ireland. Ailish and her family sleep deeply, peacefully, secure in the love and traditions that bind them together. The wheel of the year has turned once more, and as they rest, the boundary between this world and the next feels paper thin and yet as expansive as the night sky, with hearts full of gratitude and bellies full of the harvest's bounty. The whole tribe now sleeps in restful silence. I'd like you, in your mind's eye now, to begin to see a forest, a beautiful, misty, magical forest on a warm Irish morning. See the colors, see the dappled light, smell the freshness, the healing scents of nature. The purity of it all. One. Now that you see your forest, allow me to tell you a story that begins there. Oisin was a beautiful young man. He was known as a great warrior, one of the strongest, one of the bravest, one of the smartest of all the warriors in his line. This particular morning, Oisin is riding through the forest. He's with his band of men called the Fianna. These men look up to Oisin. They are also brave. They are also strong. And Oisin is their leader. Oisin loves to take this ride every morning. For him, it offers peace. It offers perspective. It offers a deep connection to the nature of his homeland, the land of Ireland. This is ancient Ireland, where Oisin has lived all his life. He has never left this wild, green place that sits in the North Atlantic Ocean, on the furthest western reaches of Europe. And by the way, the story I am telling you would have been told for hundreds and thousands of years by storytellers who would travel the land of Ireland, moving from village to village, settlement to settlement, and in the evenings the locals would sit around and listen to the traveling storyteller. So this story has been passed down for many generations of Irish people, and I am telling you my version. So, as I was saying, Oisin loved this place. He had grown up running through these woods. He knew every tree, every blade of grass, every little animal that called this place home. He used to watch the seasons move from one to the next with great curiosity and wonder. His favorite season was the autumn or the fall. He loved the rich colors of that time, the different smells in the air, but on this particular late summer's morning, as Oisin surveys the forest from his trusty horse, he notices something in the distance. It is a figure, and as the figure gets closer, Oisin realizes he is seeing the most beautiful woman he has ever seen before. She is also riding a horse. She looks at him, and he looks back at her. He can't take her eyes off her. Time passes. The leaves in the trees gently rustle. Oisin's men look to each other, not sure what to do in this long silence. And then eventually she speaks. She says, "Oisin, my name is Niamh. I have come from the land of Tirnanog. You and I are destined to live our lives together in great happiness. I know you already love me, and I already love you. You will come with me now, and we will go to live together, happily ever after, in the land of Tirnanog." Oisin couldn't quite believe what was happening. He knew that this woman was his destiny. He knew that she was right, but he also knew what he would have to give up. He would have to leave behind his men. He would have to leave behind his family. But it was already written, and he knew he must go. He went to his castle and bid goodbye to his parents. He said goodbye to his men. And then Oisin and Niamh went upon their horses and galloped over mountains, by rivers, and throughout the beautiful land of Ireland. And as Oisin galloped along, he thought of all of the things he loved about his homeland. The poetic nature of the people, the welcoming kindness they never failed to show. The landscape itself, unlike any landscape in the world, wild and green, rocky and ocean weathered. And speaking of the ocean, they soon arrived there. The rain was falling as the two young lovers reached a beautiful beach on the southwest coast of Ireland. They looked at each other and knew that they were doing exactly the right thing. They felt so safe together. So ready to spend each other's lives together. And as the rain fell down upon their happy faces, they shared their first kiss. This was a moment that would stay with them both forever. Now they mounted their horses again, and Niamh said to Oisin, "Follow me." And to Oisin's surprise, Niamh started to gallop across the ocean. Oisin could do nothing else but follow her. And so, as if by some ancient Irish magic, the two horses galloped on water. The rain continued to fall. The ocean waves were big, and sometimes it was like they were galloping up mountains of water. But at all times, they knew they were safe, because they had the power of the magic within them and the power of their shared love together. After some time, they landed on another beach. But this beach was unlike anything Oisin had ever seen. For this beach was on the land of Tirnanog. The sand was a beautiful pink color. The water, a deep turquoise, and by now the rain had stopped. The skies had cleared, and the sun, our nearest star, was saying goodbye to the day as it fell behind the ocean. Welcome to Tirnanog, Niamh said. Your new home. And the two got off their horses and lay on the soft sand beneath them and watched as the first stars appeared in the sky. Then they heard voices in the distance and music, and the voices and the music came closer, and soon it was apparent that this was their welcoming party. All of the island folk carried candles, and all wore smiles of great happiness to see their beloved Niamh return home. Niamh's parents greeted Oisin as if he was their own son. And that night, Niamh and Oisin got married under the stars on the pink sand beach next to the turquoise waters. It was here next to this beach that they would build their first home. It was here that they spent many, many happy years together. Oisin deeply loved Tirnanog. He loved swimming in its crystal clear waters. He loved the sense of community, how he felt so welcomed here. He loved Niamh's parents, but most of all, he loved Niamh. He loved the family they created. He loved everything about his life. But after some time had passed, I mean, a lot of time, one day, as Oisin was walking along the beach, he looked out across the ocean and wondered about his homeland. He wondered how his own parents were, and he craved to see them. He went and found Niamh and said to her, "I need to go home, just for one day. I need to check that my people are okay." And Niamh didn't want him to go. She told him that he might never be able to return to Tirnanog, but Oisin was sure he needed to go. And so, after much discussion, Niamh brought a beautiful white horse down onto the beach and handed the reins to Oisin. She said to him, "Take this magical white horse, gallop across the ocean to Ireland. But when you get there, do not let any part of yourself touch the land of Ireland. If you do, you won't be able to come back. And so, Oisin bid goodbye to his family, bid goodbye to Niamh, held her in a long embrace, mounted the white horse, and galloped out across the ocean. First, above the turquoise waters, and then into the Atlantic. The rain started to fall again. And after some time, Oisin was back on his beloved homeland, Ireland. He knew not to get off the horse, and so he galloped through the rain, over mountains and past rivers, till eventually he arrived to where his family's settlement was, to where his castle was. And when he arrived, what had been once a beautiful, lively settlement of people was now abandoned, overgrown with moss and trees, and what had been his beautiful home, the castle where his parents had raised him, was nothing but a ruin now. Oisin couldn't understand it. Where had his people gone? He roamed the land in search of them, but couldn't find any trace. And just as he was about to go back to the beach and back to Niamh and back to the land of Tirnanog, he saw some footprints leading down a little laneway, and so decided to see who was there. and there, down the laneway, were some very old men trying to move a big rock out of the way of their path. Now Oisin was strong and knew he could help, but he couldn't get off the horse. And so instead, he leaned off his horse at an angle and tried to grab the rock with one arm. But as he did, he slipped and fell and landed on the soft earth of the land of Ireland. When he landed there, quite an amazing thing happened. Oisin aged 300 years. You see, the land of Tirnanog is where time stood still. While he was there, Oisin hadn't aged a day. But now that he was on his homeland, he aged the amount of years he had been gone. The old men could see that Oisin didn't have long left, and so they carried him together up to the top of a mountain called Crowpatrick. And at the top of that mountain was where Saint Patrick lived. Saint Patrick blessed Oisin as he moved on to another world. Now some say that the other world he went to was straight back to Tirnanog, and some say as well that Oisin and Niamh continued to gallop the oceans around the beautiful, mystical, magical island of Ireland. In a neighbouring realm, in the land of Ireland, a realm of lush green valleys and mystical forests, there resided a princess named Iseult. Now this princess was a vision of ethereal beauty, a beacon of grace and elegance that captured the hearts of all who beheld her. Her hair, the color of sunlit gold, cascaded down her back in waves, framing a face that seemed to radiate with an inner light. Her eyes, a captivating hue, as clear and deep as the summer sky, held a depth of wisdom that belied her youthful countenance. But it was not just her physical beauty that distinguished Iseult. She possessed a heart as tender as a summer breeze, and a mind as sharp as the keenest blade. Her kindness knew no bounds, and she dedicated herself to helping those in need. With a gentle touch and words that carried the warmth of a sunbeam, she comforted the sorrowful and inspired the disheartened. Iseult's presence could transform a room, filling it with an aura of compassion and understanding. In Ireland, she was known not only as a princess, but as a wise ruler. She embraced the responsibilities of her position with grace and integrity, earning the unwavering respect of her subjects. News of Iseult's beauty, kindness, and wisdom had spread far and wide by the time she was a young woman, and suitors would travel hundreds and thousands of miles to find her, seeking her hand in marriage. Yet, her heart remained untouched, her soul yearning for a connection that went beyond the superficial. She dreamt of a love that would match the depths of her own spirit, a love that would challenge and inspire her, and a love that would transcend the boundaries of kingdoms. One day, Mark the king tasked Tristan to travel to Ireland and find Iseult. Mark had heard of the young woman and wanted her to be his bride. The journey would be long and dangerous, but Tristan was determined to carry out his duty. With the blessings of King Mark, Tristan embarked on the voyage, his heart filled with anticipation and duty. The sea was calm at first, beautiful in fact, and Tristan stood on the boat, looking out at the tranquil sea. He felt the sun upon his face and took some deep breaths as he felt an inner glow of joy at the prospect of this great adventure. Soon, though, the seas changed, and a storm occurred. Tristan always felt safe, though, because he had a very strong crew with him. And in fact, in some ways he loved to be at sea in this type of weather. The rain falling down upon him. He felt so alive. After some time, they reached the emerald shores of Ireland, and Tristan immediately fell in love with this island. The thought came to him that even though Ireland is so close to Cornwall, it felt so different. Towering cliffs, lush meadows, and pure, clean river water beckoned, as if whispering secrets of ancient tales and hidden magic. Tristan's heart quickened with the knowledge that he was about to meet the princess who had captured the imaginations of so many. After quite a lot of travelling through the land of Ireland, encountering friendly locals, asking directions towards Iseult, taking in the breathtaking views, Tristan and his men finally found the castle where Iseult lived. He declared why he was there, and like all the suitors who had come one by one for some time now, Tristan was taken to meet Iseult on behalf of his uncle, King Mark. As they were introduced, their eyes met, and in that instant, a powerful connection sparked between them. But Tristan was here to take Iseult to Mark, and so began an inner dialogue, a conflict. Tristan and Iseult spent some time together in Ireland. Negotiations were made, and it was agreed that Iseult would travel to Cornwall to marry Mark. Their journey back to Cornwall became a symphony of shared laughter, stolen glances, and whispered promises. They travelled through Ireland, passing ancient castles, sacred groves, and their footsteps were a dance of joy and wonder. The forests whispered secrets of forbidden love, and the rivers carried their secrets to the heart of the land. Every step, every touch, every stolen moment forged a bond that neither Tristan nor Iseult could resist. But they had to. Iseult was promised to Mark. They then boarded the ship and set sail for Cornwall. They travelled across the sea, and it was while on board one calm day that Iseult took a bottle of what she thought was wine. She was thirsty and drank it, and so was Tristan, who also drank some. But this was no wine. This was a love potion. It had been a gift from a sorceress who wished for Iseult and Mark to drink it on their wedding night. It was not supposed to be drunk by Tristan and Iseult. And so, in that moment, as the sun set over the calm ocean, Tristan and Iseult fell even more deeply in love. The love potion coursing through their veins meant that they were bound by an unbreakable bond. Soon, they were back in Cornwall, back in Mark's castle. Tristan found himself wandering through the ancient stone corridors of the castle. The flickering torches cast dancing shadows on the cold walls, whispering secrets of forgotten tales. The weight of his duty settled heavily upon his shoulders, for he knew that King Mark awaited the arrival of his bride. In the depths of his being, Tristan felt an ache, a bitter-sweet pain that tugged at his heartstrings. He longed to be true to his own heart, to follow the path of love. Yet he owed his uncle responsibility and loyalty. Meanwhile, in another part of the castle, Iseult found solace in a chamber that overlooked the moonlit courtyard. Her heart mirrored the turmoil that resided within Tristan. She was torn between the depths of her love for him and the loyalty she owed to her future husband, King Mark. The moon moon's radiant glow caressed her delicate features, casting a soft radiance upon her troubled countenance. She yearned for the freedom to follow her heart's desire, to surrender herself to the intoxicating love that had consumed her being since she had first met Tristan. The sweetness of their connection, the profound understanding they shared, was unlike anything she had ever experienced. As the night deepened, their yearning for each other intensified. Their souls reaching out across the expanse of the castle. The moon, a silent witness, seemed to whisper words of understanding and compassion, its gentle light guiding them through the tempestuous sea of emotions. In the realm of dreams, Tristan and Iseult found solace and respite from the constraints of their reality. As they slept, their souls intertwined. They would escape together, traversing the rolling green hills of Ireland. The wind would caress their faces, carrying their laughter and whispered promises. In this dream world, they were free, liberated from the chains of duty and the confines of their castle walls. Time passed, and despite their efforts to conceal their forbidden love, whispers of their clandestine affair reached the ears of those who sought to exploit it for their own gain. When the truth was uncovered, King Mark, Tristan's uncle, and Iseult's intended husband, felt the sting of betrayal. But Tristan, ever dutiful, left the kingdom of Cornwall. With a heavy heart, exiled from the realm he had once called home. Saying goodbye to Iseult was not easy. And in the end, their love endured beyond their mortal existence. Legend has it that as Tristan was coming towards the end of his life, on his deathbed, he heard news that Iseult was coming to say goodbye, and he was overcome with joy. But fate dealt one final blow. For by the time Iseult reached his side, he had already passed. Heartbroken, Iseult then joined him in eternal slumber, their souls forever united in the embrace of eternal life. Their names would be whispered with reverence and sorrow, and they would always serve as a poignant reminder of the profound impact that love can have on our lives. This book, by the great W.B. Yeats, was originally published in the year 1893, and I will read to you certain stories from the book that I believe are cozy and safe and comforting and conducive to a good night's sleep. And the book starts like this. This book I have desired, like every artist, to create a little world out of the beautiful, pleasant, and significant things of this marred and clumsy world, and to show in a vision something of the face of Ireland to any of my own people who would look where I bid them. I have therefore written down accurately and candidly much that I have heard and seen, and, except by way of commentary, nothing that I have merely imagined. I have, however, been at no pains to separate my own beliefs from those of the peasantry, but have rather let my men and women, duels and fairies, go their way unoffended or defended by any argument of mine. The things a man has heard and seen are threads of life, and if he pull them carefully from the confused distaff of memory, any who will can weave them into whatever garments of belief please them best. I, too, have woven my garment like any other, but I shall try to keep warm in it, and shall be well content if it do not unbecome me. Hope and Memory have one daughter, and her name is Art, and she has built her dwelling far from the desperate field where men hang out their garments upon forked boughs to be banners of battle. O beloved daughter of Hope and Memory, be with me for a little. 1893. A Teller of Tales. Many of the tales in this book were told me by one Paddy Flynn, a little bright-eyed old man who lived in a leaky and one-roomed cabin in the village of Ballysadare, which is, he was wont to say, the most gentle, whereby he meant fairy, place in the whole of County Sligo. Others hold it, however, but second to Drumcliff and Drumahair. The first time I saw him, he was cooking mushrooms for himself. The next time, he was asleep under a hedge, smiling in his sleep. He was indeed always cheerful, though I thought I could see in his eyes, swift as the eyes of a rabbit when they peered out of their wrinkled holes, a melancholy, which was well nigh a portion of their joy, the visionary melancholy of purely instinctive natures and of all animals. And yet there was much in his life to depress him, for in the triple solitude of age, eccentricity, and deafness, he went about much pestered by children. It was for this very reason that he ever recommended mirth and hopefulness. He was fond, for instance, of telling how Colm Cille cheered up his mother. "How are you today, mother?" said the saint. "Worse," replied the mother. "May you be worse tomorrow," said the saint. The next day, Colm Cille came again, and exactly the same conversation took place. But the third day the mother said, "Better, thank God," and the saint replied, "May you be better tomorrow." A visionary. A young man came to see me at my lodgings the other night, and began to talk of the making of the earth and the heavens and much else. I questioned him about his life and his doings. He had written many poems and painted many mystical designs since we last met, but latterly had neither written nor painted, for his whole heart was set upon making his mind strong, vigorous, and calm, and the emotional life of the artist was bad for him, he feared. He recited his poems readily, however. He had them all in his memory. Some, indeed, had never been written down. They, with their wild music, as of winds blowing in the reeds, seemed to be the very inmost voice of Celtic sadness, and of Celtic longing for infinite things the world has never seen. I asked what he was doing, and found he was clerk in a large shop. His pleasure, however, was to wander about upon the hills, talking to half-mad and visionary peasants, or to persuade queer and conscience-stricken persons to deliver up the keeping of their troubles into his care. Another night, when I was with him in his own lodging, more than one turned up to talk over their beliefs and disbeliefs, and sun them, as it were, in the subtle light of his mind. Sometimes visions come to him as he talks with them, and he is rumoured to have told diverse people true matters of their past days and distant friends, and left them hushed with dread of their strange teacher, who seems scarce more than a boy, and is so much more subtle than the oldest among them. The poetry he recited me was full of his nature and his visions. Sometimes it told of other lives he believes himself to have lived in other centuries, sometimes of people he had talked to, revealing them to their own minds. I told him I would write an article upon him and it, and was told in turn that I might do so if I did not mention his name, for he wished to be always unknown, obscure, impersonal. Next day, a bundle of his poems arrived, and with them a note in these words: "Here are copies of verses you said you liked. I do not think I could ever write or paint any more. I prepare myself for a cycle of other activities in some other life. I will make rigid my roots and branches. It is not now my turn to burst into leaves and flowers." The poems were all endeavours to capture some high, impalpable mood in a net of obscure images. There were fine passages in all, but these were often embedded in thoughts which have evidently a special value to his mind, but are to other men the counters of an unknown coinage. To them, they seem merely so much brass or copper, or tarnished silver at the best. At other times, the beauty of the thought was obscured by careless writing, as though he had suddenly doubted if writing was not a foolish labour. He had frequently illustrated his verses with drawings, in which an unperfect anatomy did not altogether hide extreme beauty of feeling. The fairies in whom he believes have given him many subjects, notably Thomas of Ercildoune, sitting motionless in the twilight, while a young and beautiful creature leans out of the shadow and whispers in his ear. Dust hath closed Helen's eye. I have been lately to a little group of houses, not many enough to be called a village, in the barony of Kiltartan in County Galway, whose name, Ballylee, is known through all the west of Ireland. There is an old square castle, Ballylee, inhabited by a farmer and his wife, and a cottage where their daughter and their son-in-law live, and a little mill with an old miller, and old ash trees throwing green shadows upon a little river, and great stepping stones. I went there 2 or 3 times last year to talk to the miller about Biddy Early, a wise woman that lived in Clare some years ago, and about her saying, there is a cure for all evil between the 2 mill wheels of Ballylee, and to find out from him or another whether she meant the moss between the running waters or some other herb. I have been there this summer, and I shall be there again before it is autumn, because Mary Hines, a beautiful woman, whose name is still a wonder by turf fires, died there 60 years ago. For our feet would linger where beauty has lived its life of sorrow, to make us understand that it is not of the world. An old man brought me a little way from the mill and the castle, and down a long, narrow boreen that was nearly lost in brambles and sloe bushes, and he said, that is the little old foundation of the house, but the most of it is taken for building walls, and the goats have ate those bushes that are growing over it till they've got cranky, and they won't grow any more. They say she was the handsomest girl in Ireland. Her skin was like dribbled snow. He meant driven snow, perhaps. And she had blushes in her cheeks. She had 5 handsome brothers, but all are gone now. I talked to him about a poem in Irish, Raftery, a famous poet, made about her, and how it said, there is a strong cellar in Ballylee. He said the strong cellar was the great hole where the river sank underground, and he brought me to a deep pool where an otter hurried away under a great boulder, and told me that many fish come up out of the dark water at early morning to taste the fresh water coming down from the hills. I first heard of the poem from an old woman who lives about 2 miles further up the river, and who remembers Raftery and Mary Hines. She says, I never saw anybody so handsome as she was, and I never will till I die, and that he was nearly blind and had no way of living but to go round and to mark some house to go to, and then all the neighbours would gather to hear. If you treated him well, he'd praise you, but if you did not, he'd fault you in Irish. He was the greatest poet in Ireland, and he'd make a song about that bush if he chanced to stand under it. There was a bush he stood under from the rain, and he made verses praising it, and then, when the water came through, he made verses dispraising it. She sang the poem to a friend, and to myself, in Irish, and every word was audible and expressive. as the words in a song were always, as I think, before music grew too proud to be the garment of words, flowing and changing, with the flowing and changing of their energies. The poem is not as natural as the best Irish poetry of the last century, for the thoughts are arranged in a too obviously traditional form. So the old, poor, half-blind man who made it has to speak as if he were a rich farmer, offering the best of everything to the woman he loves. But it has naive and tender phrases. The friend that was with me has made some of the translation, but some of it has been made by the country people themselves. I think it has more of the simplicity of the Irish verses than one finds in most translations. Going to Mass by the will of God, the day came wet, and the wind rose. I met Mary Hines at the cross of Kiltartan, and I fell in love with her then and there. I spoke to her, kind and mannerly, as by report was her own way, and she said, "Raftery, my mind is easy. You may come today to Ballylee." When I heard her offer, I did not linger. When her talk went to my heart rose. We had only to go across the 3 fields. We had daylight with us to Ballylee. The table was laid with glasses and a quart measure. She had fair hair, and she sitting beside me. And she said, "Drink, Raftery, and 100 welcomes. There is a strong cellar in Ballylee." O star of light, and O sun in harvest, O amber hair, O my share of the world, will you come with me upon Sunday, till we agree together before all the people? I would not grudge you a song every Sunday evening, punch on the table, or wine if you would drink it. But, O King of Glory, dry the roads before me, till I find the way to Ballylee. There is sweet air on the side of the hill when you are looking down upon Ballylee, when you are walking in the valley, picking nuts and blackberries. There is music of the birds in it, and music on the side. What is the worth of greatness till you have the light of the flower of the branch that is by your side? There is no God to deny it, or to try and hide it. She is the sun in the heavens, who wounded my heart. There was no part of Ireland I did not travel, from the rivers to the tops of the mountains, to the edge of Loch Grena, whose mouth is hidden, and I saw no beauty but was behind hers. Her hair was shining, and her brows were shining too. Her face was like herself, her mouth pleasant and sweet. She is the pride, and I give her the branch. She is the shining flower of Ballylee. It is Mary Hines this calm and easy woman has beauty in her mind and in her face. If 100 clerks were gathered together, they could not write down a half of her ways. An old weaver, whose son is supposed to go away among the fairies at night, says, Mary Hynes was the most beautiful thing ever made. My mother used to tell me about her, for she'd be at every hurling, and wherever she was dressed in white. As many as 11 men asked her in marriage one day, but she wouldn't have any of them. There was a lot of men up beyond Kilbecanty one night, sitting together drinking and talking of her, and one of them got up and set out to go to Ballylee and see her. But Clune Bog was open then, and when he came to it, he fell into the water. She died of the fever that was before the famine. Another old man says he was only a child when he saw her, but he remembered that the strongest man that was among us, one John Madden, got his death of the head of her. Cold he got, crossing rivers in the night time to get to Ballylee. This is perhaps the man the other remembered, for tradition gives the one thing many shapes. There is an old woman who remembers her, at Derry Brian, among the Ectiga Hills, a vast, desolate place, which has changed little since the old poem said, The stag upon the cold summit of the Ectiga hears the cry of the wolves. But still mindful of many poems, and of the dignity of ancient speech, she says, The sun and the moon never shone on anybody so handsome, and her skin was so white that it looked blue, and she had 2 little blushes on her cheeks. And an old wrinkled woman who lives close by Ballylee and has told me many tales of the fairies, says, I often saw Mary Hynes. She was handsome indeed. She had 2 bunches of curls beside her cheeks, and they were the colour of silver. I saw Mary Malloy, that was drowned in the river beyond, and Mary Guthrie, that was in Ardrahan, but she took the sway of them both, a very comely creature. I was at her wake too. She had seen too much of the world. She was a kind creature. One day, I was coming home through that field beyond, and I was tired, and who should come out but the pushing Gligal, the shining flower, and she gave me a glass of new milk. This old woman meant no more than some beautiful bright colour by the colour of silver. For though I knew an old man, he is dead now, who thought she might know the cure for all the evils in the world, that the fairy knew, she has seen too little gold to know its colour. But a man by the shore at Kinvara, who is too young to remember Mary Hynes, says, Everybody says there is no one at all to be seen now so handsome. It is said she had beautiful hair, the colour of gold. She was poor, but her clothes every day were the same as Sunday. She had such neatness, and if she went to any kind of meeting, they would all be killing one another for a sight of her, and there was a great many in love with her, but she died young. It is said that no one that has a song made about them will ever live long. Those who are much admired are, it is held, taken by the fairies, who can use ungoverned feeling for their own ends, so that a father, as an old herb doctor told me once, may give his child into their hands, or a husband his wife. The admired and desired are only safe if one says, God bless them, when one's eyes are upon them. The old woman that sang the song thinks, too, that Mary Hines was taken, as the phrase is, for they have taken many that are not handsome, and why would they not take her? And people come from all parts to look at her, and maybe there were some that did not say God bless her. An old man who lives by the sea at Duras has as little doubt that she was taken, for there are some living yet can remember her coming to the pattern there beyond, and she was said to be the handsomest girl in Ireland. She died young, because the gods loved her, for the fairies are the gods, and it may be that the old saying, which we forget to understand literally, meant her manner of death in old times. These poor countrymen and countrywomen, in their beliefs and in their emotions, are many years nearer to that old Greek world that set beauty beside the fountain of things than are our men of learning. She had seen too much of the world, but these old men and women, when they tell of her, blame another and not her, and though they can be hard, they grow gentle, as the old men of Troy grew gentle when Helen passed by on the walls. The poet who helped her to so much fame has himself a great fame throughout the west of Ireland. Some think that Raftery was half blind, and say, I saw Raftery, a dark man, but he had sight enough to see her, or the like. But some think he was wholly blind, as he may have been at the end of his life. Fable makes all things perfect in their kind, and her blind people must never look on the world and the sun. I asked a man I met one day, when I was looking for a fairy pool where women of fairy have been seen, how Raftery could have admired Mary Hines so much if he had been altogether blind. He said, I think Raftery was altogether blind, but those that are blind have a way of seeing things, and have the power to know more, and to feel more, and to do more, and to guess more, than those that have their sight, and a certain wit and a certain wisdom is given to them. Everybody, indeed, will tell you that he was very wise, for he was not only blind, but a poet. The weaver whose words about Mary Hines I have already given says, his poetry was the gift of the Almighty. For there are three things that are the gift of the Almighty: poetry, and dancing, and principles. That is why in the old times an ignorant man, coming down from the hillside, would be better behaved and have better learning than a man with education you'd meet now, for they got it from God. And a man at Cool says, when he put his finger to one part of his head, everything would come to him as if it was written in a book. And an old pensioner at Kiltartan says, he was standing under a bush one time, and he talked to it, and it answered him back in Irish. Some say it was the bush that spoke, but it must have been an enchanted voice in it, and it gave him the knowledge of all the things of the world. The bush withered up afterwards, and it is to be seen on the roadside now, between this and Rahasine. There is a poem of his about a bush, which I have never seen, and it may have come out of the cauldron of fable in this shape. A friend of mine met a man who once had been with him when he died, but the people say that he died alone, and one Mortine Gillan told Dr. Hyde that all night long a light was seen streaming up to heaven from the roof of the house where he lay, and that was the angels who were with him. And all night long there was a great light in the hovel, and that was the angels who were waking him. They gave that honor to him because he was so good a poet and sang such religious songs. It may be that in a few years Fable, who changes mortalities to immortalities in her cauldron, will have changed Mary Hines and Raftery to perfect symbols of the sorrow of beauty and of the magnificence and penury of dreams. The untiring ones. It is one of the great troubles of life that we cannot have any unmixed emotions. There is always something in our enemy that we like, and something in our sweetheart that we dislike. It is this entanglement of moods which makes us old, and puckers our brows, and deepens the furrows about our eyes. If we could love and hate with as good heart as the fairies do, we might grow to be long-lived like them. But until that day, their untiring joys and sorrows must ever be one half of their fascination. Love with them never grows weary, nor can the circles of the stars tire out their dancing feet. The Donegal peasants remember this when they bend over the spade, or sit full of the heaviness of the fields beside the griddle at nightfall, and they tell stories about it that may not be forgotten. A short while ago, they say, two fairies, little creatures, one like a young man, one like a young woman, came to a farmer's house and spent the night sweeping the hearth and setting all tidy. The next night they came again, and while the farmer was away, brought all the furniture upstairs into one room, and having arranged it round the walls, for the greater grandeur, it seems, they began to dance. They danced on, and days went by, and all the countryside came to look at them, but still their feet never tired. The farmer did not dare to live at home the while, and after 3 months he made up his mind to stand it no more, and went and told them that the priest was coming. The little creatures, when they heard this, went back to their own country, and their joy shall last as long as the points of the rushes are brown, the people say, and that is until God shall burn up the world with a kiss. But it is not merely fairies who know untiring days, for there have been men and women who, falling under their enchantment, have attained, perhaps, by the right of their God-given spirits, an even more than fairy abundance of life and feeling. It seems that when mortals have gone amid those poor happy leaves of the imperishable rose of beauty, blown hither and thither by the winds that awakened the stars, the dim kingdom has acknowledged their birthright, perhaps a little sadly, and given them of its best. Such a mortal was born long ago at a village in the south of Ireland. She lay asleep in a cradle, and her mother sat by rocking her, when a woman of the fairies came in and said that the child was chosen to be the bride of the prince of the dim kingdom, but that as it would never do for his wife to grow old and die while he was still in the first ardor of his love, she would be gifted with a fairy life. The mother was to take the glowing log out of the fire and bury it in the garden, and her child would live as long as it remained unconsumed. The mother buried the log, and the child grew up, became a beauty, and married the prince of the fairies, who came to her at nightfall. After 700 years, the prince died, and another prince ruled in his stead, and married the beautiful peasant girl in his turn. And after another 700 years, he died also, and another prince and another husband came in his stead, and so on, until she had had 7 husbands. At last, one day, the priest of the parish called upon her and told her that she was a scandal to the whole neighborhood with her 7 husbands and her long life. She was very sorry, she said, but she was not to blame. And then she told him about the log, and he went straight out and dug until he found it, and they burned it, and she died, and was buried like a Christian, and everybody was pleased. By the roadside. Last night, I went to a wide place on the Kiltartan road to listen to some Irish songs. While I waited for the singers, an old man sang about that country beauty who died so many years ago, and spoke of a singer he had known who sang so beautifully that no horse would pass him, but must turn its head and cock its ears to listen. Presently, a score of men and boys and girls, with shawls over their heads, gathered under the trees to listen. Somebody sang Sha Murinin Dilles, and then somebody else, Jimmy Momilishtor, mournful songs of separation, of death, and of exile. Then some of the men stood up and began to dance, while another lifted the measure they danced to. And then somebody sang Evelyn Aruan, that glad song of meeting, which has always moved me more than other songs, because the lover who made it sang it to his sweetheart under the shadow of a mountain I looked at every day through my childhood. The voices melted into the twilight and were mixed into the trees, and when I thought of the words, they too melted away and were mixed with the generations of men. Now it was a phase. Now it was an attitude of mind, an emotional form that had carried my memory to older verses, or even to forgotten mythologies. I was carried so far, it was as though I came to one of the 4 rivers and followed it under the wall of paradise to the roots of the trees of knowledge and of life. There is no song or story handed down among the cottages that has not words and thoughts to carry one as far. For though one can know but a little of their ascent, one knows that they ascend like medieval genealogies through unbroken dignities to the beginning of the world. Folk art is, indeed, the oldest of the aristocracies of thought, and because it refuses what is passing and trivial, the merely clever and pretty, as certainly as the vulgar and insincere, and because it has gathered into itself the simplest and most unforgettable thoughts of the generations, it is the soil where all great art is rooted. Wherever it is spoken by the fireside, or sung by the roadside, or carved upon the lintel, appreciation of the arts that a single mind gives unity and design to spreads quickly when its hour is come.